I left my husband alone for 3 weeks to care for my dying mother, and when I came home, I discovered something so much worse than cheating. I'm 32 years old, and 3 months ago, I learned that betrayal doesn't always look like lipstick on a collar or a suspicious text message. Sometimes it looks like your own home turned into a crime scene of neglect, and the person you trusted most in the world proving they never deserved that trust at all. My name is Rachel, and I've been with my husband Tom for 8 years, married for 5. We have a dog named Charlie, a golden retriever with anxiety issues who needs medication twice a day and doesn't do well with strangers. We have a modest 3-bedroom house with a garden I've spent years cultivating. We have what I thought was a partnership. I should start at the beginning, which is really the middle because the beginning was so normal it's almost offensive. Tom and I met at work. Both of us were accountants at a mid-sized firm. Both of us were terrible at office small talk. Both of us brought our lunch in Tupperware containers and ate at our desks. We bonded over shared spreadsheet frustrations and a mutual hatred of the office coffee. He was quiet, reliable, the kind of person who showed up on time, remembered birthdays, and never caused drama. My friends called him steady. My mother called him a good man. I called him my husband. We had a routine. I'd wake up first, make coffee, feed Charlie, and start the laundry. Tom would shower, make breakfast, usually scrambled eggs and toast, and we'd eat together before work. Evenings were dinner, TV, walks with Charlie, bed by 10:30. Weekends were grocery shopping, yard work, maybe a movie if we felt adventurous. It was boring. God, it was so boring. But boring felt safe. Boring felt like the opposite of my chaotic childhood with parents who screamed at each other and a mother who cried herself to sleep more nights than not. Boring was what I wanted. 3 months ago, my mom called. She'd been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 6 months earlier, and we'd all known it was coming, but knowing doesn't prepare you for the phone call where she says, "The doctors think it's weeks now, not months." She lived alone, 8 hours away in the town where I grew up. My brother lived overseas. He couldn't just drop everything. It had to be me. I told Tom that night over reheated Chinese food. "I need to go stay with her," I said. "I don't know for how long. A few weeks, maybe. Maybe longer." He put down his chopsticks. "Of course. Whatever you need. Can you handle things here? Charlie needs his medication every 12 hours. The garden needs watering every other day because of the heat. Bills are on autopay, but you should check the account. Trash goes out Tuesday mornings. Recycling every other week. Ratch." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I've got it. Don't worry about any of that. Just be with your mom." I left 2 days later. I packed a suitcase, wrote out detailed instructions for Charlie's care, dosage times, what to do if he seemed anxious, the vet's number, and taped a feeding schedule to the fridge. I showed Tom where the gardening supplies were, reminded him about the sprinkler system, kissed him goodbye. "I love you," I said at the door, suitcase in hand, Charlie whining at my feet. "I love you too. Give your mom my love. Call me if you need anything." I drove 8 hours, crying most of the way, and moved into my childhood bedroom to watch my mother die. It took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of hospice nurses and morphine drips and holding her hand while she drifted in and out of consciousness. 3 weeks of sleeping in 2-hour increments, of eating whatever people brought over, of planning a funeral I didn't want to plan. I called Tom every few days. Short calls. I was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, barely capable of conversation. "How's Charlie?" I'd ask. "He's good. Missing you." "How's the house?" "Fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about anything here. Just focus on your mom." He sounded fine. Normal. Maybe a little distant, but I chalked that up to the phone, to the stress, to the fact that we were both barely holding it together. My mom died on a Tuesday morning. I was holding her hand. My brother made it back just in time. Landed at 6 a.m., got to the hospice at 7:30. She passed at 8:15. We sat with her body for an hour, neither of us knowing what to say, and then we called the funeral home. The funeral was that Friday. Tom didn't come. "I'm so sorry, babe," he said on the phone. "I've got this huge project at work, and they're threatening layoffs. I can't miss it. But I'm there with you in spirit. It stung. I won't lie, it stung. But I understood. Money was tight. Jobs were precarious. I had my brother there. I'd be okay. I stayed another 4 days to sort through Mom's things, meet with her lawyer, close accounts. Then I drove home. 8 hours in the car, alone with my thoughts and my grief, and the growing sense of guilt that I was relieved it was over. Relieved I could go home. Relieved I could sleep in my own bed and hug my dog and return to my boring, safe routine. I pulled into our driveway at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. Tom's car wasn't there. He was still at work. Good. I could unpack, take a shower, maybe surprise him with dinner. I unlocked the front door. The smell hit me first. It was rancid. Rotting garbage mixed with something acrid and organic and wrong. I actually gagged, dropped my suitcase, and covered my nose with my shirt. What the hell? I stepped inside. The living room was destroyed. And I don't mean messy. I mean destroyed. There were pizza boxes everywhere, stacked on the coffee table, overflowing from the trash can, scattered across the floor. Empty beer cans and liquor bottles covered every surface. The couch cushions were stained with something dark. There were clothes everywhere, his clothes, thrown over chairs and balled up in corners. The TV was on, paused on some video game screen. I walked into the kitchen, and my heart stopped. Dishes. Mountains of dishes. The sink was full, the counter was full, dishes were stacked on the stove, the kitchen table, the floor. Moldy food crusted on plates that had clearly been sitting there for weeks. Fruit flies swarmed over a pile of rotting takeout containers. The trash can was overflowing, garbage spilling onto the floor, coffee grounds, food scraps, something that might have been meat at some point. The smell was unbearable. I opened the fridge. It was nearly empty except for condiments and a gallon of milk that had expired 2 weeks ago. I checked the pantry. Also nearly empty. He'd eaten through everything or ordered out and let it rot. I walked to the bathroom. The toilet was unflushed. The shower had a ring of soap scum and hair. Wet towels were piled on the floor, mildewing. Our bedroom was somehow worse. The bed was unmade, sheets stained and bunched. His clothes covered the floor like a fabric carpet. There were dishes on the nightstand, more moldy plates, cups with dried liquid at the bottom. I was shaking. Not from anger yet. From shock. From disbelief. Then I remembered Charlie. Charlie? I called. Charlie, baby, where are you? I heard whining from the spare bedroom. I ran down the hall and opened the door. Charlie was locked in the spare bedroom. The room was dark, the curtains drawn. And the smell, God, the smell. He'd shit and pissed everywhere. The carpet was covered in feces and urine. His water bowl was empty and bone dry. His food bowl was empty. He was lying in the corner, matted and filthy, and when he saw me, he barely had the energy to lift his head. Oh my God, Charlie. I dropped to my knees. He was so thin. I could see his ribs. His eyes were dull and sunken. He tried to stand, and his legs shook. I sobbed. I actually sobbed right there on that disgusting floor, holding my dying dog. I grabbed my phone and called the emergency vet. I need to bring my dog in right now. He's been neglected. He's severely dehydrated and malnourished. I think he's dying. Bring him in immediately. I wrapped Charlie in a blanket, one I grabbed from the hallway closet because I couldn't trust anything in that house, and carried him to my car. He barely moved. Just lay in my arms, breathing shallow, eyes half closed. I drove 15 minutes to the emergency vet, crying the entire way, whispering to Charlie that he was going to be okay, that I was so sorry, that I should never have left him. The vet took him back immediately. I sat in the waiting room, covered in God knows what, shaking and crying and trying to process what I'd just seen. An hour later, the vet came out. Her face was grave. Mrs. Patterson? Is he okay? He's stable for now. We've got him on 4 fluids. He's severely dehydrated and malnourished. He hasn't eaten in at least a week, maybe longer. When was the last time he had his medication? I stared at her. His medication? He's supposed to be on anti-anxiety medication twice daily, correct?
Yes.
My husband was supposed to give it to him. Her jaw tightened. There's no trace of it in his system. I don't think he's had it in weeks. Mrs. Patterson, I have to ask, has your dog been neglected? I was out of town, taking care of my dying mother. My husband was supposed to. My voice cracked. I left instructions. I wrote everything down. He promised he'd take care of him. The vet's expression softened slightly, but there was still steel in her voice. I'm required by law to report suspected animal abuse. Please, I whispered. Please save him. I'll do anything. We're doing everything we can, but he's very weak. The next 24 hours are critical. I stayed at the vet for 3 more hours. They finally told me to go home, that they'd call if anything changed, that Charlie needed rest and I should too. I drove home in a daze. Tom's car was in the driveway. I walked into the house. He was in the living room, playing video games, surrounded by the same garbage and filth I'd left hours ago. He looked up when I walked in. Hey, you're home. He smiled. Actually smiled. How was the drive? I stared at him. Where's Charlie? His smile faltered. What do you mean? He's in the spare room. He's at the emergency vet. They're trying to save his life. The color drained from his face.
What?
Why? Because you locked him in a room and didn't feed him for weeks. Because he was lying in his own shit and piss. Because he's so dehydrated and malnourished the vet thought I was abusing him. I fed him. When? I screamed. When did you feed him, Tom? His bowls were empty. He hasn't had water in days. He can't even stand. I forgot a couple times, but I fed him. I swear. I looked around the living room, at the pizza boxes, the beer cans, the complete and utter destruction of our home. You forgot, I said slowly. You forgot to feed our dog. You forgot to give him his medication. You forgot to take care of literally anything while I was watching my mother die. I was busy. Work has been insane and busy. I gestured at the video game still paused on the screen. You were too busy playing video games to feed our dog? That's not fair. What's not fair? I said, my voice shaking with rage, is that I trusted you. I trusted you to take care of our home and our dog for 3 weeks. I gave you detailed instructions. I called to check in. You told me everything was fine. It is fine. Look around. I screamed. Look at this house. There's moldy food everywhere. The bathroom is disgusting. You left our dog to die locked in a room. I didn't mean to. I don't care what you meant to do. Charlie is dying because you couldn't be bothered to put food in a bowl twice a day. My mother died and you couldn't even come to the funeral because of work, but you had plenty of time to get drunk and trash our house. He stood up. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Pressure? I laughed. It came out manic. You want to talk about pressure? I watched my mother take her last breath. I planned her funeral alone. I sorted through 40 years of her life and decided what to keep and what to throw away. And the entire time, the only thing keeping me going was knowing I could come home to my husband and my dog and my life. I gestured at the wreckage around us. And this is what I came home to. I'll clean it up. I'll fix it. It's been 3 weeks, Tom. You had 3 weeks to clean up, to feed our dog, to be a functional adult. And you couldn't do it. He just stood there, and I saw it in his face, the realization that there was no excuse good enough. No explanation that would make this okay. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this house. Right now. Ratch, come on, let's just. Get out. I screamed it so loud my throat hurt. Get out before I call the police and report you for animal abuse. He grabbed his keys, grabbed his wallet, and he left. I stood in the middle of my destroyed living room and cried until I couldn't breathe. Then I started cleaning. I cleaned for 6 hours straight. I filled 30 trash bags. I scrubbed counters and floors and toilets. I opened every window in the house. I washed load after load of laundry. I threw away everything that was too far gone to save. At 2 a.m., I collapsed on the couch, the only clean spot in the house, and my phone rang.
The vet.
Mrs. Patterson? Charlie's stable. He's going to make it. You can pick him up tomorrow afternoon. I sobbed into the phone. Thank you. Thank you so much. I picked Charlie up the next day. He was still weak, still thin, but alive. I brought him home and set up a bed for him in the living room where I could watch him constantly. I fed him small amounts every few hours. I gave him his medication on schedule. I sat with him and cried and apologized over and over. Tom came by 3 days later to get his stuff. I'd already packed it neatly because even in my rage, I couldn't help being organized. Can we talk? He asked.
No.
I'm sorry. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Counseling or... You let our dog nearly die while I was burying my mother, I said, my voice flat. There's nothing to fix. It was an accident. No, I said. An accident is forgetting once. Maybe twice. This was 3 weeks of choosing video games and pizza over basic responsibility. This was 3 weeks of lying to me while I was going through the worst thing in my life. I couldn't handle it, he said quietly. You being gone. The house being empty. I just shut down. Then you should have told me. You should have asked for help. You should have done literally anything except let everything fall apart and lie about it. He didn't have an answer for that. I'll file for divorce, I said. You can contest it if you want, but honestly, I have vet records that'll show what you did to Charlie. I have photos of the house. I don't think you want this in front of a judge.
He left.
I haven't seen him since. The divorce was finalized last month. Quick, uncontested. He didn't fight me on anything, probably because he knew he'd lose. Charlie's fully recovered now. He's gained back the weight, his coat is shiny again, and he follows me everywhere. I don't mind.
I follow him everywhere too now.
I don't trust easily anymore. I still live in the house. I thought about selling it, but I've reclaimed it. Deep cleaned every inch. Repainted the spare bedroom. Planted new flowers in the garden to replace the ones that died while I was gone. People ask me sometimes if I wish he'd just cheated instead. And here's the truth. Yes. If he'd cheated, it would have hurt. It would have been a betrayal. But it would have been about him and another person. It would have been about sex or emotions or whatever drives people to cheat. What he did was worse. He proved that when things got hard, when he was alone and uncomfortable and didn't have me there to pick up the slack, he just gave up. He chose his own comfort over everything. Over our dog's life. Over our home. Over the basic decency of being a partner. Cheating is a choice to betray. What Tom did was a choice to abandon. Abandon responsibility. Abandon our dog. Abandon any pretense that he was capable of being a functional adult without me there to manage everything. And that's worse. Because it means the entire 8 years of our relationship, I wasn't a partner. I was a mother. I was the person who made sure things got done, who kept our lives running, who picked up every piece he couldn't be bothered with. He didn't need a wife. He needed a caretaker. And the second I wasn't there to cater to him, everything fell apart.
So yeah.
I wish he'd just cheated. At least then I could have kept some illusion that we'd had a real partnership. That he was capable of basic human decency. But he showed me who he really was. And I believed him. I came home from burying my mother to find my husband had nearly killed our dog through neglect. And I realized some betrayals are worse than infidelity because they reveal something irredeemable.